Welcome to the Texas Values Report. This is Jonathan Saenz, president of Texas Values. Great to be with you on another glorious weekend. Hope you're doing well. Maybe getting a little bit ready for Thanksgiving, right? Peeking at those Black Friday sales and, figuring out where you're going to land and, maybe what football game you're going to watch or whatever traditions you're involved in. Hey, if you're new to the show, we talk about the issues of faith, family, and freedom in the arenas of the courts, the legislature, and the media. And you know what? I missed this little fact point last week because we were so busy with the elections. We were so busy getting ready for our gala in Dallas, which was fantastic. And I'll talk a little bit about that on the show today, that I failed to mention, even though I had discovered earlier in the week. Last week's show was our 400th consecutive episode. So the Texas Values Report started in 2015. And so since that point in March of 2015, we have had a show every week, and last week was our 400th episode. So, just another thing to celebrate as we're celebrating 10 years of Texas Values this week, and we're excited about that. But we've got a great guest today. And I imagine if you're in the Central Texas area or if you follow law and policy and politics across the state of Texas, you might have heard about her. And if you haven't, stick around because you're going to want to. Caroline Harris is going to be our guest today on the Texas Values Report. I guess I need to start calling her Representative-elect Caroline Harris because she was just recently elected to the Texas House here in the Central Texas area. As a matter of fact, I can almost see the border of her district outside of the window from my house. That's how close I live to that district. And so a lot of excitement about her winning. We'll get into some of those details in just a minute, but you might be familiar with her, or you might have seen her face before, because before working and becoming a candidate and getting elected, she worked for Senator Bryan Hughes, one of the most well-known senators in the state of Texas. Representative-elect Harris, welcome to the Texas Values Report. But you gotta unmute yourself. Sorry. Sometimes it does that on its own. I know. There you go.
The joys of technology.
Yes, the good and bad. Welcome.
Thank you so much. It's good to be on here.
Well, look, it's good to have you a part of it. And, you and I have seen each other quite often, as I was mentioning, since I live pretty close to the district and know a lot of people around this area. We've done some work in Round Rock recently with our concerns regarding the school district. But, look, the Central Texas area is growing. And there's a lot of excitement about your candidacy. As I mentioned, you worked for Senator Bryan Hughes, who's a strong friend of Texas Values. Matter of fact, he was at our gala Friday night in Dallas with all of our work on the Texas Heartbeat Law, some of the work going on implementing other pieces of legislation. So we've got to know each other over the years. But now here you are, right, stepping into, some bigger shoes into a bigger position, going from staff member, which you did a great job of, but now being the representative, I'm sure it's quite the difference. I think you're up to the challenge, but I think a lot of excitement around you winning. How does it feel? It's been a week.
It does not seem real yet. I don't know when it kicks in, but I'm just so excited to have accomplished this. And it's a team effort. I had so much help. I just feel like this was just a win for everybody that was on my team, everyone in the district, everyone who voted for me, and I'm just so excited about it.
Well, look, there's a lot to be excited about. Apparently, there's some national folks that are excited about it, too. There was an article in Fox News that came out this week, or maybe it was late last week, talking about you being the youngest woman Republican to be elected to the Texas House. And so, that's nice to make history. That's something good to celebrate. And not that was necessarily your goal. Okay, I'm going to run to become the youngest person. As a matter of fact, I didn't realize that either, right? Sometimes we're in the middle of the campaign and then, they're looking for an angle of a story. But I do think it's noteworthy, right? And there were numerous Republican women that won elections for the Texas House, a couple of them brand new, right? Terry Leo Wilson, even though she served in elective office before, but now is going to be a Texas House member, a Republican woman. Ellen Troxclair in the Central Texas area. Of course, Carrie Isaac, just south of the Central Texas area and close to us as well. But there's a lot of interest and excitement around that. But I got to see you work really hard firsthand and your team as well. And so I think that creates some momentum moving forward. And I back up for just a second. Tell us a little bit about yourself, because my understanding, you're from that area, you grew up in that area. So I'd love for our listening audience to get to know you a little bit better.
Yeah, absolutely. So we moved to Round Rock when I was 6 in 1999. And so I grew up right by the Dell Diamond. And as a matter of fact, it had just been built. And so as a kid, I remember going to some of the first baseball games there during that first season. So that's really fun. And then my dad started a church in Round Rock when I was 7. So he had a church there for almost 15 years. And so I really grew up involved in the community, invested in the community. And then I've worked for Senator Brian Hughes for almost 8 years. And that whole time I've always lived in Round Rock, never moved to Austin. All my family's there. I love that community. And so it's a huge blessing to get to serve them. And my educational background, my undergrad is in communications. I got that in 22 months. And then my master's degree is in public affairs. And I never planned on really being in politics when I was in college, but Senator Hughes offered me the job right out of school. And as soon as I started working in the Capitol, I just fell in love with it. The people, the process. I'm a huge Texas history nerd. And so I just absolutely loved it. And I never thought I would run for office. As a matter of fact, when you work in the building, everyone asks you, are you planning on running? Are you going to do that one day? And I always tell people there's no way. I am so afraid of public speaking that I will never do that. But so often in our lives, the Lord has different plans. And so, I was complaining a lot about my own state rep and some of the things that he had done. And the people around me just kind of encouraged me, well, what are you going to do? You can do more. What are you going to do? And so I prayed about it, thought about it. And I just really felt the Lord calling me to run. And, he didn't say, you're going to win or anything like that. But I just felt that calling. And, as soon as I stepped into it, I just felt like I was doing what I was made to do. The Lord just does that. He gives us the desires of our heart. Sometimes we didn't even know they were there. And so it's been a huge blessing to get to do this. I have gotten to just be an encouragement to people instead of just being involved in politics. When I went door to door, I got to pray with people. My parents led people to the Lord going door to door. And so it was more than just politics. It was really, how can we uplift people, especially these days when things are so difficult for some people. So it's been a huge blessing. I have to say, love what I'm getting to do. It's too cool.
Well, look, it's good to hear that. And, I think the Capitol could benefit from, a little bit more energy and optimism and from a fresh perspective, if you will, a younger perspective. I don't want to focus too much on the age thing to act like, that's, has to be an overriding principle and that, older people or whatever are out of touch. But, I do think, and it doesn't mean that, your values would be any different than, say, Senator Hughes or others, but it just means you might have a connection point with people, or they might identify with you a little bit better because they're like, she's not that much older than me, or she's from the community where I grew up in. There can be tremendous value to that. We're talking with Representative-elect Caroline Harris, who is going to be sworn in very soon in January and represent Texas House District 52, which the district's a little bit different, right? And I think that's fair to say. And you mentioned the person in that position before, James Tallarico, who's no friend of Texas values. Okay, we've had some interaction with him, and I think he's made it clear he doesn't really like the things that we stand for. He's not in that district anymore. They, redistricting moved the lines a little bit, so he actually ran for a district close by. So, whatever people think about it, he's coming back to the legislature. But that seat did flip from Democrat to Republican. And so, and look, from my vantage point and what I know, while the district might have been a little bit more Republican friendly, it wasn't a slam dunk. It wasn't a foregone conclusion. And you started your work way back, right? It was a competitive primary. And I think there's value to that. There were a lot of people that were like, hey, I want to run for this office. And so, speaking of getting some opportunities for public speaking, you had quite a bit before we got to the general.
It's so true. And so, yeah, I was in a primary with 3 men. I announced to run for this seat end of last July. So it's been almost a year and a half of working on it. And in the primary, yeah, there were a lot of good candidates. And so I really did have to be on my toes, prepare a lot, and just kind of get over that fear of public speaking. Now, I still get nervous. It hasn't gone away completely, but it really honed me and my skills and just how to communicate. And then I was in a runoff, and I only won that by 108 votes. And that really came down to knocking on doors, talking to people face to face. You know, I heard all these stories later on of someone I had talked to at the door who then let their family know to go vote. And so I know that that victory was really due to grassroots campaign efforts, getting to the doors, and just really connecting with people where they were.
No, absolutely. We're talking with Representative-elect Caroline Harris from Texas House District 52. Fox News says she's the youngest Republican woman to ever serve into the Texas House. That'll bring some more history to the ceremony in January. I'll look up, and I think it's January 10th. I'm trying to figure out when the first day of the legislative session is. In full disclosure, our partner organization, Texas Values Action, that endorses candidates, did endorse Caroline Harris in the primary, in the runoff, and in the general election. And, so I did get to see a lot of that. And as I mentioned, I spent some time personally involved in lending my own personal support. But I did get to see a lot of that. And I do think there were a lot of attention around that race, because even though the lines changed, people were kind of still wondering, is this now going to move in a Republican direction? I think you did great work with Bryan Hughes, but still, you had to create your own identity. You had to create your own following. And I think it was fair for you to also either take credit or, allow people to see, yes, I was a part of supporting the Texas heartbeat law, and I was a part of, pushing back against efforts to have critical race theory and all the great things that came out of Senator Hughes's office. And I saw you talk about that issue. I think one of the things I saw you talk about quite often, your faith, but also your support of the life issue. And I think that's been an issue that young women have cared about more and more as we've seen time go on.
Absolutely. And, I am so excited to be in this position and, to fight to continue to protect life. And y'all know better than I do. You've been in this fight longer than I have. The times are changing, and, our work isn't done, even though Roe v. Wade is there's just so many more things that we can do to protect life. And then also just to support those women that are in those situations. When I was not going door to door, of course, you're never going to agree 100% with whoever you're talking to. And so my goal was always, where do we find common ground? How can I connect with someone on what their concern is? And I found myself talking a lot about the Alternatives to Abortion program with who really didn't agree with me on the abortion issue, but were interested to know that Texas actually has this huge, robust program to help women in crisis. And I really think that made a difference, going door to door, getting the word out about that program. And I just looked at it as, okay, this is a small way that I can continue to advance the cause, continue to get the word out about that program, but also to send the message that, we care about that life, we care about that baby, but we also care about that mom. It's not one or the other, always both. And so it was so exciting for me to get to that message out and get to talk to women about that issue more. It's
an important message too, because I don't think a lot of people are aware of that, right? You, myself, Senator Hughes, a lot of us are out there talking about that, but the media tends to focus on the overturning of Roe versus Wade, which has been incredibly significant, probably one of the most important Supreme Court decisions in my lifetime, if in the history of the court. And so, but a lot of talk about politically, a lot of talk about, negative things, suggesting that, women are going to be in despair and they're going to be fleeing the state and acting as if that's all that some of us care about is protecting the baby in the womb. And we don't care about what happens afterwards. And there's just no truth to that because of some of the great work we've been doing for many years. Your boss, right? Your former boss, Senator Hughes, if I can call him that, the gentleman that you worked for that served so great. But I mean, he led a lot of those efforts too, in the Texas Senate and even the House before. So I'm sure you got to see that up close, but as well as communicating about. He was talking about that at our event, our gala on Friday, and we need to do more of that. We've got a great website set up, TexasHeartbeatLaw.com, originally set up to educate people on the law, but we've now used it as a way to connect people with resources and to feature and highlight the Alternatives to Abortion program and how women can get resources for over 300 pregnancy care centers across the state of Texas. So, but look, this is to get elected to, I don't know if you want to say beat the odds, but your first time running. I mean, it's got to be exciting. And you worked in the Senate. Yeah. Now you're going to be on the other side of the Capitol in the House, but you got your own office now, right? So I mean, it's and you'll get a chance to work with Senator Hughes, right? He'll be over there, leading efforts and so on. But I'm sure there'll be some fun interaction.
Oh yeah, I'm so excited. And he has been the best mentor to me. I'll never forget when I first started working for him, I was only part-time. And so, but I wanted to stick around all the time and see what happened on the floor. And there were a couple, late nights where me, the chief of staff, whoever was an intern that was still there, 2 a.m, Senator Hughes would come off the floor of the House and he'd say, okay, let's go get a burger. And so we'd all sit down and talk about all the stories, everything that happened that day. And, he's just an incredible man, and the Lord's used him in so many ways. And so it's a huge blessing for me to have been under his mentorship for so long. And I have called him a lot already and asked for advice.
He's seen a lot.
It's a So yes, he has. Yeah.
He's seen a lot. Absolutely. He does know how to carry a conversation. I will tell you, he was one of the last people to leave our gala Friday night. And and look, I know we're about to not see him for a little while. He's getting married and he's going to go on his honeymoon. And so good for him. So maybe he was, having a few more conversations left before, he gets some time off and so on. But and it's not new, though, and I appreciate it. I loved having him there. People want to talk to him, and he's just carrying on great conversations. And I think it was, getting close to 11:30, maybe midnight, and I was going back to my hotel room. And I was going to have this inside policy that if people are still there for the event, that at least somebody from our team should be around. And so I'm walking down the escalator, and Senator Hughes is like right behind me. So we were like the last ones to leave, but he's great. But I know you're going to, not that you're going to be different than him, but you're going to have your own style. You're going to have your own presence, and you're going to have your own constituents to communicate with. And so you've been able to spend a lot of time through the campaign season getting to know a lot of people. And I think that is nice how that can carry over.
Oh, yeah.
When the legislature starts. As a matter of fact, we start, I think it is January 10th. Yeah. First day will be coming up. The ceremony is on the first day, and the week will be a lot of fun. But with a lot of things going on, Roe v. Wade, the midterms, all kinds of different things, there's going to be some important things happen and some important votes that are going to be taken. And so we look forward to you being a part of it. But also, I think, it's going to be interesting to see how these things play out from your experience, but realizing you now get to cast that final vote, right? You get to press that button and be the one that is the voice for the people in your district.
Absolutely. And, that is just a lot of responsibility. And it really makes me so grateful that I went to so many doors and talked to people. I mean, I know I went to over 7,000 doors myself and talked to my constituents and just tried to figure out, okay, I have the things I want to work on, but what is their top concern? That's what I asked. I'd knock on the door and say, hey, I'm running for state representative. What is your top concern? And I would also add, it doesn't have to be political, because so many times people would say, oh, well, I'm not into politics. I don't know anything about it. And I'd say, no, it's okay. You can tell me about your neighbor's yard if that's, like your top concern. Not matter. And so I had so many good conversations, and I'm so grateful because I feel like I know, what the district needs, what they want. And I tell everybody, when I was going door to door, to come see me at the Capitol, to call me, let me know what they think. So I'm excited. I think I've got a good feel for it, but I'm even more excited to have people come to the Capitol, call me, let me know what they think. It's exciting.
Well, look, and I think for many of us, right, having that Christian background gives us some experience with a servant leadership. And that's, really what a lot of people expect. We see it at the Capitol. I think Senator Hughes has demonstrated and modeled that very well. And I'm sure that's something that you'll bring to the Texas Capitol as well. Well, we're excited to see as you start your time as the Texas House Representative for District 52 in the state of Texas. I know there'll be a little bit more attention around you, I'm sure, when we get to the formal ceremonies and swearing in day, but we'll be getting to work soon. Our team will be looking forward to working with you, and we're glad to have Representative-elect Caroline Harris as our guest today on the Texas Values Report. Thanks for being on.
Thank you so much for all of y'all's support and for having me on. I appreciate it.
You bet. Well, great to catch her for a little bit because I know work's going to get busy. I'm sure she's going to enjoy Thanksgiving, but like ourselves, our team is already at the Capitol. We're already talking with people, and so it's great to have Representative-elect Caroline Harris on for a few minutes. Look, some big news this week, okay? And it always happens this way, often, all right? And I didn't get a chance to remind y'all, if you're watching this on YouTube, hit the button to subscribe. Share it on Facebook right now as we're live. Yes, we are live. This isn't being recorded. Well, it is being recorded, but this isn't a recording. Right now, it's not. It will be for people that watch it later. So I've just shared it on my Facebook page. Get into some groups. Hey, for all you people in House District 52 in the Round Rock area, Taylor, push that into the groups up there. In Williamson County, so they can see this great conversation that we just had with Caroline Harris. It might have been one of her first. I don't know. Has she been on any radio shows? Obviously, Fox News interviewed her. So, youngest Republican woman to be elected to the Texas House, making history already, and she hasn't even stepped in the Texas Capitol. But yesterday, the U.S. Senate voted, all right, to move a bill forward that puts same-sex marriage into federal law. Also is going to be a direct challenge and in direct conflict with a lot of religious freedom laws. And that's what they're trying to do with, we're calling the Disrespect for Marriage Act. This is a robust piece of legislation that's not just about allowing for same-sex marriage in our country, because we know that the Supreme Court has already spoken on that issue, and you're really not seeing anything that is getting in the way of people doing that. So this is about making it final, if you will, not final, but that they have it in law, because some people think, oh, the Supreme Court might change later. But it also is a desperate vote. You've got a Senate race that's still unfolding. You've got a runoff in Georgia. You've got a lot of questions about whether or not votes were counted. There is a lot of concern and a lot of confusion and a lot of uncertainty. So in walks Chuck Schumer. We're going to force this to a vote. And there probably was expectation that it might be close, but some surprise that this actually passed, because you need 60 votes to sort of clear a filibuster threshold, what they call a cloture vote, to then signal, okay, we can bring this up for discussion, and then you only need a simple majority after that. And so they got 62 votes. Why is that? Because 11 Republicans voted in favor of this very dangerous piece of legislation. This will create a national policy that says, same-sex marriage is the law, it is the policy, and if you don't agree with it, you can be subject to punishment. I firmly believe if this does end up getting passed and getting signed into law, you're going to see it used as a weapon against people of faith, because they refuse to put religious freedom protections into this piece of legislation that respects the fact that Christians and people of other religious entities and beliefs firmly believe that marriage is between a man and a woman. I mean, it's clearly in the Bible on this. And so, but this is what some of the folks that push these things, they don't like that. They want to stamp that out. They don't want anyone to believe this way. And one way that they want to make sure you don't, or even say it publicly, is to punish you. Make it hard for you to get a job, make it hard for you to keep your church open, make it hard for you to maybe apply for government grants and contracts and some of these things. I firmly believe that Christian schools need to take this threat seriously, that they're going to find themselves in a position where they're going to lose or have their tax exempt status threatened that are Christian based because of their beliefs on the issues of marriage. We've already seen lawsuits like this play out, where churches and medical entities and others have been sued because, or people have brought lawsuits because they're making decisions based on those religious beliefs. We had to pass a law in the state of Texas in 2015 to make it clear that you couldn't force churches to perform same-sex marriages because there was that legitimate concern. And now if they're going to do this at the federal level, it's just going to bring all that up again. It's going to fan those flames and create more tension and division and some legitimate concern. I mean, we look, the cake bakers, the florists, all these different people, adoption and foster care agencies that have had to pass laws because they simply want to operate based on biblical principles, and people don't want them to do that, and they want them to be punished if they don't. This is not over, okay? There's still a couple of procedural votes. And so if you live in some of these other states where they voted this way, let's see if I can pull this up again. Joni Ernst in Iowa, I think people were surprised that she voted this way. If I can pull up the list from some of the members. Also, Senator Loomis, Capito. Let me look at my list in just a second here. So there's still time. But here's the thing. Call Senator Cruz. Call Senator Cornyn. Thank them for standing strong. Call Chip Roy, okay? He's on the other side. He's in Congress and the House, but he's been lending his voice to this. Even though he doesn't vote in the Senate, he's been communicating that we need to stand up on this issue and we need to take serious the threat of religious freedom. Hey, just a couple of things, too, before I forget. Let me see if I'm trying to pull up this list of the members. This is Senator Blunt in Missouri, Burr in North Carolina, Capito in West Virginia, Collins in Maine, Loomis in in Wyoming, Murkowski in Alaska, Romney, forget about that, but Ernst in Iowa and possibly Young in Indiana. Those are some senators that might change their vote, and we might still have another vote on this where there's time. But the reason to thank Cornyn and Cruz is because they've been getting a lot of attention, and they need to know that you've got their back, and that'll give them some more strength moving forward. If you see value in our work, I'm almost out of time. txvalues.org. We're at the State Board of Education this week, trying to implement Senator Hughes's Senate Bill 3 to make sure critical race theory, CRT, is not taught in our public schools. That's an ongoing fight we've been involved in, and we're having some success with. We're going to have some great events coming up in Houston on December 12th, in San Antonio on December 5th. Look at our website. And as we get close to the end of the year, we need your financial support. We're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. You can donate at txvalues.org and help us protect faith, family, and freedom in the state of Texas. And we'll talk to you next week on the Texas Values Report.